It's the last classic Doctor Who Sunday for the next few weeks, but it's a pretty good one. It's Frontios. Hello and welcome back to Chat About It, Don't Shout About It with me, Rachel, the Queen of the Woke, as crowned by one of my haters.
I crown you Queen of the Woke!
Let's chat about it. Today's story was voted by you, the subscriber. I've not been very good with the polls just recently. However, I've decided that I will relaunch the polls when I get back from holiday. So please do keep an eye out for them. I think it will be roughly 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. So please do keep an eye out for them. They will be back up and running when I'm back. They do normally get released every Saturday, but I do apologise. I've been a bit rubbish with everything with the uploads just recently. But you know, it's the way that it is. You know, it's just happened. Life took over. So you voted for Frontios, which is a Fifth Doctor story, Peter Davison, and it was written by Christopher H. Bidmead. I always thought he was Christopher Bidmead. I didn't realise there was a H in it. Anyway, the Doctor and his companions, Turlo and Tegan, are travelling in the TARDIS when they discover that they are in the Varuna system near the last colony of the humans who are trying to survive. Tegan wants to visit, and the Doctor says no, he cannot interfere or even go down there. However, they are suddenly dragged down to the planet with a meteorite storm and they land on the planet. The Doctor immediately starts helping, naturally, of course, because people are injured, and he starts treating them. He needs light, so Tegan and Turlo go to the TARDIS, only to realise that the door to the room that they need to get to is jammed. They deliver this news to the Doctor, so the Doctor decides that they need to return to the TARDIS a little bit later to get what it was that he needed, and they discover it is gone. Most likely dispersed, is the theory. They are taken hostage by the Plantagenet. However, the Plantagenet is, of course, suddenly taken ill. And so the Doctor decides that he's going to try and save him by building a defibrillator out of the old battery jar that Tegan, Norna, and Turlo had collected. The Doctor then leaves Tegan to look after the Plantagenet. Meanwhile, Norna and Turlo are analysing the meteorite fragments, though Turlo becomes distracted, big surprise for Turlo, but you know, what can you do? By the giant hook that they used to lift the battery with. He discovers that it lifts the trapdoor on the ground. He and Norna decide that they're going to go and investigate. The Doctor returns and sees that the trapdoor is open, and he goes down to see what is going on. Tegan, who is still with the Plantagenet, finds some information about unaccountable deaths, and naturally, of course, she finds that suspicious. And then she witnesses the Plantagenet dissolve into the ground. She makes a break for it and escapes the chief orderly and his minions, and she also finds a tunnel. Well, she finds the tunnel that Turlo and Norna had found. We also see Turlo terrified beyond belief as an ancestral memory comes to the surface about the Tractators, and he bolts, leaving Norna trapped with the Doctor by the Tractators. Tegan is able to save the Doctor and Norna. The Doctor then finds out as much as he can about the Tractators. They are a race who are led by the Gravis. They use their gravity beams to pull down the meteors from the sky, and they are the ones that make the ground alive. They are planning to dry the planet, and the Doctor is, naturally, of course, the only one who can stop them. The trouble is Turlo able to remember the key thing that will put a stop to the Tractators from moving the planet in time for the Doctor to save the day? Alright, okay, so I sat down to watch this one and I couldn't remember for the life of me what happened in this story for a good chunk of it. I knew I'd seen it, but I couldn't remember. Once I got to part 4, that's when I remembered what happened with the resolution. I honestly don't know why that is. This story it's not a go-to story for me, and I can count on my hand how many times I've seen it, even though I do own it on DVD, and that's 3 times. 3. Now that doesn't mean it's bad, but it's just not enlightenment. I can't wait to do that one when we get to that one. This is a very, very sci fi story. This one, I find. It's set in the future, and we have some really, really big character development for Turlo, which follows on from JNT wanting to give the companions more to do. I would say that JNT's run was pivotal in working on character development for the companions. I'm not saying that the past characters were underdeveloped. I know that's what it may sound like I'm saying, but I'm not. Reasons are cited in the past from actors who left the show prior to this because the characters were doing the same thing over and over again and thus not progressing. It would become stale for them to keep doing it. Actors get itchy feet. So, I think this is probably the reasons why JNT was going down this route. I like to think that's what it is anyway. And of course, if you know any different, please do let me know in the comments section below. It makes me wonder if JNT learned from not developing Adric as well. We didn't really see any of Adric's characteristics written into the scripts. Turner was introduced as a danger to the TARDIS, but redeemed himself and he was easily manipulated. He was somewhat of a coward, and even in this story, he still is a coward. However, Christopher H. Bidmead gave him some really good bits to work with. He made the Tractators a creature from Turlo's ancestral history that flood to the surface of his memory, frightened him to the point where he could barely walk. I think that Mark Strickson, because I don't feel like I talk about Mark Strickson enough, plays that really well. If I recall, if it's this story that plays over into one of the Big Finish stories when they brought back Tegan and they did a whole trilogy with like Old Anissa and things like that, but I can't quite remember off the top of my head. The concept that they are buried deep in ancestral memory is a brilliant thing, though, because it sets up the resolution because Turlo is slowly recalling what their dangers are. It's a bit like the Battle of Kolos or Kolos, I can't remember what it's called, but that Jodie Whittaker one where those memories start flooding back slowly. So yeah, Tello is slowly recalling it, and that's obviously the aid to the resolution. Brilliant. That's a really, really good idea. That's one thing that helps Doctor Who have something put in place early with the resolution. It's the companion in this case, but the Doctor solves it. It's very well done, very well written. I think Christopher H. Bidmead really understood the function of sci-fi. Now, one of the things that I like about classic companions is how reckless they are. They really are. If they were not, then they would be quote unquote pretty boring. And I say that very, very loosely, just so you know, okay? They've got to have some rebelness there, or not listening, or whatever, or just something that makes their character their character. There are many things that Turlo and Tegan do in this that are completely reckless, and I approve of that. When they don't listen to the Doctor, that's when it goes crazy. Especially in the 80s Doctor Who. Turlo is not listening to the Doctor's instructions to help Norna. He just paces around and tries to figure out other things that like what they would need a hook for in the research room, which then obviously resulted in him and Norna opening the trapdoor and going down there to look what was there. He also purposely frightens the people of Frontios as well in order to get them to do the Doctor's bidding. So he is cunning in that respect. Then we have Tegan trying to break into a drawer because she saw something about unaccountable deaths. This resulted in her being dragged away by the chief orderly. I love how she overthrows him as well and then goes to free the Doctor and Norna from the Tractators with that green light. The only thing that I don't really like about this story is that there is a fair bit of running around the burrows that have been created for the Tractators. Now, don't get me wrong, there was jeopardy put into it, and that's absolutely fine. They do look like a good corridor or a ventilation shaft in Doctor Who. It wouldn't be Doctor Who without one. I just feel like something else could have happened. It felt a bit fiddly, you know? The tractator bowling was quite fun, the Doctor pushing that big, I can't remember what it was now off the top of my head, but and then having the tractators fall over and all of that. But I do feel like still that something was missing. It was better when the Doctor connected with the tractators. It probably and this is the reason why I think that is because it moves towards the resolution at that point, and it does it at a good pace. I did love the Doctor's jab at Tegan while she was being held captive. I feel like he made it pointedly, but letting her know indirectly that she was staying there because she was safe and he had a plan. The progression in Tegan to recognize this as well was also very good, because quite often in the past, maybe she might not have picked up on that. Although she was rather insulted. She was like, okay, I get you, I'm staying here because you thought of something. I do like Tegan, she's great. I think the best thing in this whole entire story was the reveal that the tractators needed the human mind. The reveal that they had used the body of Captain Revere, and then seeing him revealed as a head attached to a machine is brilliant. That is what I call irksome. And the whole idea that the ground could eat you, that whole thing to a child would be terrifying. I could imagine that not many children have had to gone out and played in the dirt for a while after that. They wouldn't have wanted to do that. The effects of the ground eating with the characters are also pretty good for the time as well. No wonder the captain had made a rule that there was no digging to be made underground anymore. There's pretty scary stuff if you actually boil it down and really think about it. This story, whilst having a few wobbles in the middle, doesn't shy away from pretty fast moving pace, right? I thought it was going to be quite slow when I first watched it, when we had the scenes in the TARDIS drifting into the Varuna system. I'm glad I know what that's called because it's changed. My spell check changed it to Verona. I love the Doctor's adamant refusal as well to land on the planet to go and see the last colony of the humans as well. I love that it plays into the idea that the human race wants to survive, so that they look into other planets and other solar systems to see if they can. I know it's a sci-fi trope, but I don't mind that as a sci-fi thing. It's reflective of what we have. Well, probably back then. I wouldn't know. I wasn't around back then. Or, like what we have today, in some respects. I find it very entertaining that they are dragged down to the planet via a meteorite shower, and the Doctor just immediately starts helping with the injuries and also saves the Plantagenet before he dissolves into the ground. I couldn't place Jeff Roll for ages, and I'm thinking, what have I seen in him? What have I seen in him? But of course, he's a lot younger in this, and he's still amazingly talented. And then I really, when I checked his name at the credits, I was like, of course, Jeff Rowell, and made me think, obviously, Harry Potter. But it's not just Harry Potter he's done. I think that one of the first things I saw him in was Midsummer Murders, I think. Anyway, the cliffhanger we have here, the Doctor finds out that his TARDIS has potentially been destroyed. That's brilliant because now he has no way out. And I found that Peter played out that anger extremely well. Peter does anger fantastic, actually. I really do like it. It was very well justified, and his mood was being taken about being taken as a hostage was fantastic as well. And of course, well justified too. I like the fact that he chooses to help them though in the end, because it would favour them as much as it would favour him, even though he was never there. I do like it. I love the resolution to the story as well. And I think it's probably the most memorable bit for me. Well, I told you earlier that I remembered what the ending was, even though I couldn't really remember what happened prior to that. The Gravis is the control for the Tractators. The thoroughly unlikable brazen become orderly becomes a hero by saving Turlo and telling everyone to save themselves, and that it was an order because he is unable to escape the machine. That whole little sequence is absolutely, I love that bit. It was one of my favourite bits. The Doctor really is a genius as well. Once Turlo remembers that the tractators are linked to the gravis. The doctor knew immediately what he needed to do. I honestly couldn't have predicted it. Honestly, I say things quite often predictable in this show. But I never saw this one coming. The Doctor luring the Gravis into the dimensions of the TARDIS and making him reassemble it was a clever move. Even the companions cottoned on to what was going on. So, it's a pretty impressive plan if they can really, really, truly go, oh, and realise what's going on and take it all on board and don't fight the Doctor over it and things like that. So, Doctor's plan's always impressive anyway. What am I talking about? Just ignore that last bit. Absolute babble. The Gravis didn't die, and the tractators become immobile, and that's a bit of writing as well, in my opinion. It's simple yet effective, because the Doctor doesn't really like offing species if he can help it. Ideally, he would prefer to save it. So that particular aspect, that fits in really, really well with the character of the Doctor and the fact that they take it to another planet. It's very fitting for him, and whilst he's relieved that it's all over. You can see it in Peter's performance that the Doctor is happy with the outcome. Yeah, all right, maybe for the Gravis it's not the best situation, but the Gravis didn't die, and the tractators just switched off. Would that be metaphorically dying? I don't know. I'm guessing not. Oh, let me know what you think. And the final cliffhanger as well. Let's just talk about that too. The TARDIS being pulled into the middle of the universe, ready for the resurrection of the Daleks. Absolutely brilliant. You quite often see those types of cliffhangers with early Who when they tried to roll the stories into one a little bit more, have a cliffhanger every single week. So it's really good when they can recall that and bring that back sometimes. So for that particular decision, and because obviously it was going to be a Dalek story, it was very, very important to hype it up. Now, overall, this is a good, entertaining story. There are bits that could have been done better, absolutely. However, it can be appreciated for what it is. That's what I think. Let me know what you think. I'm going to be on holiday from now, so I have listened to you and I have pulled back on the videos that I was planning to do. I was planning to do lots of extra little videos for you, but I've not done that. So what I have done is I've got 2 pre-planned videos about the Olympics, and there was an article to do with Harry Potter, which I thought both of which were absolutely fine and still relevant to cover over the next 2 weeks. And then there'll be 3 Jodie Whittaker reviews in a row, even though I'm gone for 2 weeks, but I need an extra week when I get back because I may not have time to watch another Doctor Who story in order to get it ready for review, because I'm quite late back during the week, so I'm just covering myself. So you do have content, it's just limited. But thank you very much for joining me. I do appreciate that you're all here and we are having a good time on this channel together. Thank you very much for watching. Chat about it, don't chat about it. I'll see you soon. Bye bye. Thank you for watching today. Don't forget you can join me on my other platforms as well. I've got YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, X, TikTok, Instagram, Locals, Substack, and I also have a Discord. Everything is linked below.